Okay, it says we are live. Let me double check. Make sure. There we are. I'm seeing us. I think we're good.
Yay.
Welcome, everybody, to the Redemption series. We are interviewing Tamara, and I just have to say this is something I'm very, very excited about because I know Tamara, one, she's amazing at what she does. Two, she's lived a variety of experiences in her life that to me are inspiration. And a lot of times I take the approach of like having a lot of care, having a lot of love. And I also think there's this balance in growth. No matter what, it's really to drop the excuses. And so I think people don't always see this side of me, but it's sometimes going inside. And so, Tamara, let me let you introduce yourself, and you can share who you are, what you do, what you help people with, and then we'll go from there.
Okay, that sounds great. So, my name is Tamara Rasheed, and I am an author as well as a publisher. I have my own publishing house, and man, like I've gone through a lot in life. That's probably an understatement. I've been through a lot of things. My past was a place that I was kind of stuck in. Well, not kind of, really stuck in for a long time, and I didn't realize how much of an impact that it had on the rest of what I wanted to create. So it's like I grew up with neglect and abuse and a lot of mental health stuff, and I had to create this value for my life as a young person. I ran away from home, and that kind of shifted things in motion where it kind of created this place in my mindset where I knew that I was on this different kind of journey and this different kind of path, and I had to be more discerning about what I decided to do with my own life. I'm really fortunate that I learned that as a teenager to honor myself and kind of follow that. I started my publishing business in 2016, and I hated it, and I was afraid of it, and I was afraid of being responsible and accountable to people at that time. And it kind of spiraled into losing everything. I lost the home I was in. I lost my manuscripts, even on my computers. Both of my computers crapped out on me, and I dropped my hard drive. It was just a series of crazy things that had happened in my life that kind of made me focus inward.
Yes.
I thought my business, even at that time, I thought my business was the answer, and I had no idea what that business should even be. I was like in and out of books, at that time. So I kind of, that created a new focus, and it kind of helped me turn like my attention inward, instead of like partially, I could say partially, because part of it was I knew I had skills that I needed to still hone in on, like closing. I needed to like sales better, and I needed to find a way to connect with people in a better way. But it was a lot of past stuff that kept coming up for me. So even with business strategies, I had to turn inward and look at myself and really see who I was and put love into that. So that's kind of the track that I was on getting here, I hope that answered, the question.
Yeah.
When I think about my life, it's like this, oh my God,
yeah. I think it definitely answers that, because I think, for anyone listening, whether they've had a challenging past or whether they're currently going through something, I think just the fact that you've been through so much, whether in, abuse and trauma and dealing with homelessness and dealing with just so many, just so many challenges. I think a lot of times people experience those things and they say, this is it, or there isn't anything more than this. And really, you chose entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
And at the same time, right, because it reflects a couple things. One, it reflects that you're choosing to take control of your life, that you want to create your life. So there's that belief there. And while you're on that journey, what's coming up in the process, I always say entrepreneurship is like the most spiritual process, is all this healing and love that's needing to take place, because whether it's closing like you're talking about, and hating it, and it bringing up challenges from the past related to worth, or related to just whether someone likes you or what your offer is. On top of that, there's this element of wanting your business to be this thing and wanting it to produce everything. And that's, entrepreneurs don't always see it, but that's like the urgency mode. Like, I'm placing all my eggs in this basket to change my life. And when we put all that pressure on our business, it kind of backfires, right?
Yes, I agree. And the funny thing about that is, yes, entrepreneurship, it is kind of a gateway to the healing and these different things you're going to experience to improve your life, to create what the kind of life that you want. But it's just kind of a doorway that you enter. It's not the thing that gets you there. You know what I'm saying? And I think a lot of people that start out as entrepreneurs, they're looking at that as the golden goose. The entrepreneurship is that thing that's going to change my entire life. I'm going to crack it open, become a millionaire, and all my problems are going to be solved. And I think the school of thought that goes into training young entrepreneurs nurtures that idea.
Mm-hmm.
And I think some sort of intentional but unintentional things that happen in the process are, now you're being introduced to personal development, professional development. You're seeing your pains and stuff from the past pop up, and now you have your first series of choices to make around your healing, to do real things to heal that, right? Go to therapy and talk to someone, and those things start to pop up. So it becomes like an introduction. But the funny thing about that is that I found, even in that, entrepreneurs treat that healing as optional.
Yeah.
And with books, you cannot avoid the healing. That first book is like the thing. You got to tell your story.
And that's what you help people with. Yeah.
That's what you help people with. Yes. You have to tell your story. So it forces you to kind of deal with stuff that's going on in your life. And that's kind of where you're ready or not.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it's easier to see that process with an author.
Right. There's a couple things that you're sharing that I feel are really important. One is, it sounds like, when we put that pressure on the business, and that urgency, we're really, it's, if I just get this one client, everything will be different. Or if I just hit this $1 mark, everything will be different. Or if I just get this one opportunity, everything will be different. And so what I'm getting from what you're saying and the discovery there is, it's not the business that does it. It's you that does it. It's like, you are your own opportunity. You're your own creator. And what you've done is you really use your own background and story to, provide your own healing and own growth. And now I want to make sure I get this right, is you help people really synthesize and digest their own story. So not only is it their own growth that's occurring through processing whatever their story might be, they're actually getting to share it to inspire others, because their story is the thing that actually often leads back to their business.
Yes, it's exactly that. And, like, I find in that process that a person, through that a situation where they're looking at their own story, that's where they find that they're in this transitional period in their life.
Mm-hmm.
They're not in the middle of the pain and stuff of the past anymore, but that's all they know.
Right.
Right. And so when they meet me, typically they're in a stage of, okay, I know I've been through a lot of things. I don't know how to articulate that.
Yeah.
And find the lessons in it. Or they've already found lessons in it. They've turned it into like a draft, but then there's no connection to what's next. The vision
Mm-hmm.
is not built, you know. The vision has become the book.
Yeah.
Right? The story of your past is not your vision of the future. You
Right.
know, and so what I help to do in that transitional phase is just make it clear. I make those
Mm-hmm.
things clear. Here's where you were, here's where you are right now, and that's where you want to go. You know, so it's like a roadmap. That book is the start that you are here. You know, that's
Yeah.
what it is. Yeah.
Absolutely. And so for those, listening in this theme of redemption, we got some amazing people commenting.
Oh,
Ellie said, hello, beautiful, beautiful beings. Ben Rosso's here.
oh,
If someone's listening and they do micro soldering, and they have repair businesses, he's the best for that.
is the best.
And then I think I'm pronouncing her name right. Is it Portia Steele?
Yes.
Yeah. Um,
Mentee.
what'd you say?
She's my mentee.
Oh, well, she's amazing.
She's
And
incredible.
yeah, she said personal development and business development definitely goes hand in hand. Could you, Tamara, could you share? Because I think sometimes I saw a TikTok today, and the person said, there's two types of people. There's the people that are going through the pain and they're so sick of it that they make a new decision even though they're scared. And then there's the people that stay scared and they just keep going through the same thing over and over and over again. And I've spoken with people like this that even though they have an idea what to do, even though they know that there's something different, they can feel so scared that it's more comfortable to stay in the same pattern. Uh, what is there? Do you have any recommendations for a person, or I guess speaking from your own experience, was there something that occurred for you, or something that clicked that you thought I'm going to change this, or even though I'm scared, I'm going to take a step. I call it dropping the excuses, but I think someone going through it, that those things feel very real.
Yeah.
And so I'm curious from your experience, what you would consider that state to be, and what helped you shift that.
Sure. Like for me, fear. So I'm a big language person. I'm a huge word person. I'm in
Mm-hmm.
books, but further than that, I have education behind that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So the meaning of words is really important to me. It has a deeper impact when you understand what words mean. So like the word fear, it has like a dictionary definition, but then it has what it means to you and your psychology. It has a meaning to where you're at in the season of life that you're in. So
Yeah.
as a young person, I learned that fear was, especially going through pain and going through trauma and abuse and these different terrible things in your life. Fear was something you felt to keep you safe. It was a protection mechanism. So you've learned to, when you feel fear, to step back,
Mm-hmm.
to retreat or to run away from whatever it is that was causing you that fear, So it has a new definition in the transition that you're going through. Once you're out of that pain, out of the pain, meaning you're not in that abusive relationship anymore. You've healed from that. It's been a couple years, you're no longer a dependent of your parents. So you don't have to continue to endure the hardships and the abuse and the verbal and emotional and mental stuff you've been going through. So there's an end to that, but you still have that fear around. So fear in that situation means something totally different. That fear now means the unknown. There's something on the other side now that if you go towards it, you will be changed. You will be different. It's going to introduce different things to you. But some people become paralyzed about what's on the other side of that. That unknown is going to require you to process a lot of the stuff that you've been through in the past, and sometimes reawakening that stuff for yourself, remembering it, and it creates triggers about what you experienced before, and you have no new meaning to attach to it. So that's why your vision is important. If you have a really solid vision for your life, fear really means something totally different, because now you know what's on the other side. Most people don't build a vision. They think a vision is a goal.
Right.
And that's not the same. You know, it's just not the same. So if you're attacking fear, or you're bumping up against fear, you get to choose what's on the other side of it. And I think that's what's missing from most people's lives. They don't have a understanding that they can write the story that comes after that, you know? And so for myself, I put a lot of energy and a lot of time and a lot of work into building a vision that was different for me, compared to whatever I had in the past. So I can't compare myself to other people. The only kind of comparisons I really did with other people was if somebody else was doing this thing that I wanted to do, that I thought was cool, or that I discovered these other people doing, then that meant I could do it too. I did not allow myself to be limited because I'm a human being. I always saw myself as a human being first. And because I see myself as a human being, I'm not separate from other humans.
Yeah.
So that was like a foundation for myself that I created that kept me motivated to keep going beyond what I thought what was possible on my own, just as an individual.
Yeah. And, you know, this has me really curious, because I imagine, you know, someone may be listening to this, and, you know, that's an interesting idea, right? To see yourself as a human being, because you are. And so there's that element. I'm curious, though, you know, for anyone listening, what is the difference between a goal and a vision? How do you see those things as two different elements? Because some people might be thinking they're going towards a vision, and maybe it is a goal. And I really like what you're saying of, you know, it's different than the past. You actually get to see what you're moving towards. Yeah, I'm just curious how you would differentiate those, because I know some people that the idea of a vision, or maybe sometimes they might come to a call, and just the idea of that something could be different does not even compute for them. They're just the idea that, that something could be different. And sometimes I think people believe they have to have a special feeling, like my intuition is telling me, or I finally feel this, and so now I can do this. And I mean, you can tell me your experience, but from what I've discovered, like 80% of the time, my feelings are inaccurate, and they're also temporary. And they aren't prerequisites or requirements for me to, you know, do something. Like, based on how I'm feeling, doesn't, like, me flipping the light switch doesn't work any differently. If I take the action, it still produces the result. Yeah. And so I use that as like a comparison. Yeah, so I'm curious what you would share with someone, the difference between a goal and a vision, and then what's actually needed for them to move towards the vision.
Well, okay, so I've always considered myself an intuitive and empathic person, and a heart-centered person.
Yeah.
So because I use those labels on myself, being able to feel my way through something has been a big catalyst in my life. But I've
Mhm.
also had to learn to balance that, right? Sometimes I've had a feeling that I thought was intuitive that I should listen to, but those feelings were really dark and negative and pessimistic and really did not help me move forward. It just kept me trapped in the past. It kept me trapped in my identity. So I think feeling has a place,
Mhm.
but until you've developed yourself to a point where you can trust yourself, it's hard to use those feelings to gauge where you should be going because you're battling with trusting yourself all the time. So that's a
Yeah.
separate thing, right? So then uh, I'm going to kind of segue into the goal versus vision part.
Yeah.
So I was the kind of person as a young person that built a value for myself that seemed greater than the value people had for me in my environment. So being that kind of person that had a lot of value for my own life and I saw something different for myself young, wishes, the ability to wish for something, that was a skill that I developed young that was different from what the people in my environment allowed for. There was no wishing for things. So I would wish for possibilities and opportunities and openness and ways to really discover the world in a different way. It started as a wish. And then that
Mhm.
wish, when it became part of me, part of desires for my life, I started to dream about things, right? It became part of me where I'm waking up at 3 a.m. and 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. and I'm writing and I'm doing these things, right? When I decided, when I got the courage to put action behind my dreams, then they became goals.
Mhm.
Those goals, even though I was taking actions and trying to achieve these goals, they were not attached to anything bigger in my life. They were just little stepping stones that it's like if you start out by creating these little goal stepping stones, you could achieve those little stepping stones, but still feel like you're not going anywhere. Like you don't have real movement in your
Mhm.
life toward that $1 million lifestyle or whatever it is you're envisioning your life to be. Creating a vision allows you to actually put uh, um, strategies and psychology and depth into the life you want to live. So instead of just taking these steps, they may be milestones toward something, but they're not anchored in the rest of your life. And you might be feeling like, I wish I could do this thing and share what's going on with my kids too on social media. I wish I could do this thing and write this content about my business, but also share that I'm taking a martial arts class. It'll make, without a vision and just working on goals, it'll make your life seem a lot smaller and categorized and segmented than it actually is. So the vision is the inclusion of your entire life, all of
Mhm.
the emotions, the things that it intellectually stimulates you, the thing you're doing for a career, what you want your finances to be. And there's an awesome article by goodtherapy.org called The 8 Dimensions of Wellness. These 8 dimensions were outlined by the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Association as the areas in a person's life where if you had optimal wellness in these areas, you would be considered as having a good life. And
Mhm.
that's what I wanted. So I looked at these areas of wellness, these dimensions of wellness, and I started to become intentional about the areas of my life that I wanted to see change. If I felt like in my spiritual life things were lacking, I could create goals now about that spiritual aspect of my life and then step towards improving that and making that optimal. So it's
Wow.
like the goals are the smaller steps that get you somewhere. But if you have
Mhm.
not created your roadmap to the place you're trying to get. If you're trying to get to eyes, you got to have eyes on the map, or else you just have the yellow brick road, and that could be taking you anywhere.
Yeah.
You know? So that's how I gauge vision and goals.
Yeah, I think that's amazing, right? That and really what I'm getting from that is the vision makes up your whole life, and what helps make up that vision is these goals. And I always love the phrase, I use this in my coaching, is little steps make big leaps.
Yeah. Yes.
And so it sounds like those goals that people are identifying for themselves are what lead into and make up more of that vision that takes into account the whole life. And it really sounds like it's having that intention. And I like this idea of the wishing, right? Because the wishing is like the access point to reach something, even if it doesn't seem like it can occur right now. It's at least reaching it to get a sense of what that feels like, what that looks like, and what it'd be like, and you start to create that even more in your world.
Yes.
Now we have a question here. They wrote, if you're the type of person that is paralyzed by fear, how do you overcome it to become the type of person who feels motivated by it in order to choose what's on the other side?
That's
Yeah,
great.
what are your thoughts?
So my thoughts on that is fear. Okay, so you have the fear itself, whatever it is you're afraid of. That's not where the fear starts. The fear has a starting point in your life. So something has happened in your life that you've anchored the fear to. And then there's a story around that.
Mm-hmm.
So you make the thing that happened mean something about your identity, about who you are. Okay? And that's why it becomes paralyzing, because you play that story over and over and over in your head to the point where it has such a prominent place in your mind that anytime that thing comes up, now you've created a phobia around it. So like a phobia is the development of a fear into this concrete kind of placeholder in your mind that you can't get past. But all of those fears, they're just kind of stories that you've told yourself about something that's happened. So in a case where it's paralyzing you to the point where you can't take action, you can't move past it, you would need to, that's where you have to consider, do I need some kind of professional help to stop the story? Can I stop the story on my own? If I can't, then I need a way to kind of break through that so that I can understand that the thing that happened to me, it happened. And yes, it was painful, but I allowed it to continue to live on in my life as something that I remembered as, this is who I am now because of this. And that's where things are not true. That's where it's not true. That thing happened to you, yes, but it didn't change who you were. You made it mean something that allowed you to change who you were. You created rules around it, and you created a way of being around that thing that now dictates the way you live your life, what you will and you will not do. You're always the one that says what you will or won't do. That's always you. Nobody else can make you say that, and that's the responsibility you have to take for the things that you've been through in your life. Once you can actually go back and face the fear of the thing that actually happened, you can then turn the thing that happened into something better for your life. The paralysis happens as a result of what you make it mean going forward. It really has nothing to do with you and your future, the thing that happened in the past. And that's that was a huge insight for me to understand that things that have happened to me in my life didn't make me who I was.
Yeah.
I am who I am regardless. And I can leave that stuff in the past where it belongs.
Yeah. I think that's amazing. And really I'm getting the sense that, part of what you're sharing is it's not about whether being paralyzed by fear or whether fear motivates you. It's understanding how to develop the skills and tools to manage their own state, their own well-being.
Mm-hmm.
I know I'm kind of boiling it down, but it's almost like, if a kid wants to go somewhere and maybe it's further away from home than they've traveled before, you know, crossing the street or maybe riding their bike,
Mm-hmm.
it's almost like there's an element of being on high alert, or I'm going to get hit by a car, or these different things because of what they've seen or what they've experienced in their past. Obviously, they're just going a different distance. And so it sounds like there's this element of perception. So if someone's had something happen in their past, it's a great time to check in and maybe ask themselves the question of, what am I making? What did I make this mean about me? What do I believe this means for my future? So they really get to audit their own beliefs on those feelings, because they very well may have come up with those beliefs at that time in the past and they just kind of carried them with them. It's neither a good or bad thing. It's just whether it's useful now.
Right, exactly. And the gauge of whether it's useful is more clear when you have a vision.
Mm-hmm.
You have that vision and you know where you want to go. As you're moving towards it, you're going to bump up against and grapple with things in life that will make it slower, will make getting there slower, or make accepting that is a reality, that your vision can become a reality.
Mm-hmm.
It will make that seem impossible to you, So that's a space where once you're on that road to your vision and you bump up against that fear, that's the time for you to really assess and find out how important it is to you to get there. If it's important to get there, then you will do what it is you need to do. You'll heal through it the way you need to heal through it, or you pay money towards that, next step that you can't do by yourself to overcome it, to redefine your perception of what's happening,
Yeah. Wow. Amazing. And I like the way that you really broke that down for people, because I think you're doing it in this, it's a compassionate way. And at the same time, it's this element of what we started with of dropping any excuses, right? It's, it's this idea, if you want it to change, it's up to you. But you got to believe it can change first, or that there's a possibility. Go ahead.
To add to that, you also have to be able to honor where you're going in life,
mm-hmm.
and not carry what people think about where you're going with you. You know what I'm saying? The way people think about you, what people think about you, has come from your past too. They've not seen you act any different from the way you've been in the past. So because they haven't seen that, the evidence for them that you can be different doesn't exist. And that's why you can't listen to people about their perceptions of you and try to keep them in the same space in your life. Those things are meant to evolve. Relationships are meant to evolve to meet what it is that you want to create in your life. Some people can come with you and some people cannot.
Yeah.
And it's perfectly okay. It's not right or wrong. Sometimes you meet again and sometimes you don't.
Yeah.
You have to value yourself and your life, and your story the way you need to tell it.
Wonderful. And so, we're getting an amazing overview here. And, you shared a lot of the challenges and obstacles that you've had to overcome, and you shared. I think you said losing your house. You shared.
Mhm.
You didn't specifically, I think, share it here yet, but from our conversations, I think you were homeless in the past for a period of time, and moved. You started to make more funds, and you ended up, getting a house in that way, and so I think this is really helpful. Just the idea of moving through the fears, creating a vision, starting to align the goals. Could you share a little bit more of, from that point, what is the healing journey been like? Because I think a lot of times, honestly, no matter who it is, I think whenever we're experiencing something unpleasant, uncomfortable, or there's an obstacle, we just like want it to be done.
Yeah.
It doesn't always occur that way. And so, what does the journey look like in terms of healing and being resourceful, and what type of support did you reach out for?
Well, what healing looked like for me was uh, really just being able to accept myself for who I am. But I kind of had to find who myself actually was in order
Mm,
to do that. And so healing for me, it looks like being able to kind of shed all the rules that I created around my identity. So that way I could function freely as who I am.
yeah,
So when you go through a lot of trauma and pain and abuse and different things, you build these walls up. You kind of cocoon yourself in uh this list of kind of things that you've uh learned about people and relating to people that keep that allow people to treat you nice. So it's like at a period of time in my life where I was neglected, if I was nicer to the people that took care of me, I would have more of an opportunity to be fed. You
mm,
understand that? So that lesson through my life as I grew up, that meant my boss would be nicer to me if I was nice to them. My boyfriend would be nice to me if I was really nice, but it's not the kind of nice where you get to create preferences for what you want in your life. It's you people pleasing to the point where you don't have any preferences of your own. You've traded that to make everyone else as happy as possible just so that you don't have conflict.
mm-hmm,
you know so that's what I had to kind of shed and let go in order to understand that I don't have to be a people pleaser in order to have friends. I don't have to be a people pleaser to have a connection with my family members. I can choose to be of service to people or not. I can choose to be charitable or not. And so it was like a healing for me was more, where is Tamara in all of the things that I'm doing as responsibilities and obligations and all this other stuff I had to do in my life? Where was the life that I wanted to actually live? So, yeah, that's a huge part of my healing. And then in everything else, it was me being able to get out of my own way to make other things produce the way I wanted them to produce. So if I was in my business talking to clients, I wasn't closing because I was so much in my head that I couldn't listen to the person, and I was sticking so hard to the script because I thought the
mm-hmm.
script was where the money was and not the person who was looking for value that I can help. So
Yeah.
it's like just yeah. So my own healing was like a self discovery. You know.
And I imagine, as you're becoming aware of the tendencies and the people pleasing and those different things, that what starts to, I imagine, even as you start to take different actions, I'm sure that in and of itself brings up more stuff because
Mm-hmm.
and even if you aren't connected to people now, I think when we go to do something new, words that we hear, words that others have said to us, I imagine start to creep in.
Yeah.
Maybe you're going to make more money, and they criticize, people that were well off. Oh, now that I'm actually doing this, I'm, got some internal criticism that is being replayed from the past of,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
yeah, yeah.
Absolutely. Like oh man, like just having like a record player playing all the negativity, you know. Like for me in the beginning of my healing journey, before I really even started getting coaching and things like that, I knew that I had a lot of negative thoughts all the time that didn't belong to me. All my own
Mhm.
thoughts were, ooh, I can do this, and ooh, I could do that, and look at this cool thing. And then I would automatically beat myself back down to this low level from all the negativity that I've heard over my life that kind of seeped to my identity, you know.
Mhm.
And it was like, ooh, I can do this became, can I do this? I can't do that, you know, because of the negativity. So I was able to do a lot of self work, and we all have tools. We have tools that we've learned over time. We just don't keep them present, and we don't continue to use them or put them in a tool pouch and recognize what it is that we're dealing with. So if I know that I deal with self sabotage, and I've talked to many people who knew, you know, from day one, self sabotage is my problem.
Mm.
Okay, so what are the tools that you've learned knowing that that's the problem? Oh, yeah, I went to therapy and I learned this and I learned that. Now it's the time to use it. Get
Yeah.
ahead of your mindset stuff, you know, so that
Yeah.
keep running into it, you know?
Yep. And you have me thinking. There's a couple things. Um, One is, I really like how you mentioned that the true you had a lot of positivity and
Mhm.
motivation, and then there were those other thoughts, that come from others, just kind of playing on the side of all the things that could go wrong, beating yourself up. And it's always interesting because I think when we reach a point where there's a lot of motivation and a lot of positivity, and we go to get on the court and take the actions, even if something doesn't go as planned or maybe does go wrong, it's all of a sudden like we make those unhelpful thoughts correct, when
Yeah.
really it's just a little blip along the way. Like you're able to handle it. It doesn't mean that
Oh,
your goal is any less possible. And you
yeah.
have me thinking of, I don't know if it was you, Tamara, or whether it was someone that I was talking to. They said it's the idea of choose your tough or choose your scared, meaning, the example they gave was working out. Like someone might say, "Oh, it's tough to work out," and they're like, "Well, it's also tough to be withering away and not well." So you get to choose what your tough is. It's tough to be in a trauma state and freaking out, and it's also can be tough to take the action and try something new. I guess
Mhm.
it's just which one is filled with more possibility.
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, that's the thing about fear again, I think, you know, like fear, you get to choose how you approach your fears. And I think it's a moment by moment choice.
Yep.
You know, this is not a thing that you're going to make a choice about this one time and then you'll always know how to face it. You're going to need to be adaptable and flexible and allow yourself to feel through things. Most of the time we don't let ourselves feel through anything that we are dealing with. We get angry at ourselves, and that's where I was in my healing journey. I got angry because I was angry.
Yeah.
You know, you remember that conversation with me? I'm like I'm like, I keep getting so mad, and I'm so mad that I'm mad, you know, and it
Yeah.
would make me cry that I was so angry that, and I'm like, I really don't have anything to be angry about. And you said, well, why do you need a reason to be angry? It's just a human emotion to be angry. And maybe you're just angry because you are. And I was like, oh, well, okay. And I kind of had to, you know, it's like much of my life, I built this understanding that, hey, I'm a human being and human beings have certain behaviors and that's okay. But then I would be so hard on myself and just not recognize that that was my humanity showing through, and that was a time to show myself love and grace, and not to be upset at myself just for having feelings, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when you can, when we can tap into that feelings are temporary, right? That we aren't who we are. I think it gets to be really freeing. And through this healing journey and the journey of entrepreneurship, it sounds like you've really developed. Part of it is really developing these skills to manage your state, and there's going to be all different things that pop up, whether it's just a day that you wake up and you're angry, and maybe some of it is nutritional, maybe some of it has to do with a client from a few days ago, or,
Yeah.
or a potential client. It's really developing the skills to manage your state, to see that you can move forward. Your life is not dependent upon this one moment,
Right.
or this one person. So where would you, as I'm thinking of this, because we've really gotten a sense, and I like this theme of fear. And for anyone that hasn't listened, in the first episode of this redemption series, there was a guy interviewed named Hip, and I really love the acronym that he used for fear. It gets to be, it could be one of two things. It's face everything and rise. And the one that he said was fuck everything and run, which I relate to that. There's been times that I just want to, F it all. I'm out of here. I'm done. I don't want to deal with these people or this thing. And so I think, there's always that choice. And so, yeah, what would you recommend for someone? Maybe they haven't worked with a coach before. Maybe they haven't even gone to a therapist. And this is new for them. Maybe the closest that they have right now is that they're, going through TikTok or Reels, and they got 456 simple lifestyle changes to make that they've become overwhelmed by. I know I've been there. What would you say would be a good step for them, or what's a step that you took that you could share with them, and what that was like?
So in the beginning, before I knew therapy was an option or anything else, I had to kind of concentrate on rewiring my brain. So rewiring that negativity that was always, eating at me. That's where affirmations came in, repeating. First of all, I repeated the affirmations of other people. So like Louise Hay is somebody that just pops into my mind, and you've got the go-to gurus on affirmations. There's no lack of them. Okay.
Yeah.
So I would repeat affirmations of other people. And then I realized after reading things about the brain, it was when you repeat something to yourself, your subconscious takes it in easier because it's your own voice telling your own brain to do something. So I started making my own affirmations, and I actually ended up writing a list of 365 affirmations. I'm going to show you real quick because it's right here. And I originally wrote it for moms because a lot of moms go through. So this was my affirmations book. It's really thick.
Wow.
Right? And it's in seasons of the year. It's also in days of the week. So I can flip to today and tell myself an affirmation that will help me move forward, at the end of summer going into fall. So I just started creating things for myself when I knew I needed them. And then I used emotional freedom technique. So there's tons of videos on YouTube about that EFT. And what it did was it helped me to start becoming self-aware about the things that I was feeling and talking out those things, getting used to having a conversation around what I'm feeling and attaching a vocabulary to my emotions. I think a lot of people don't really have that vocabulary around what they feel, and children
Mm.
definitely don't. And that's why as parents we have to, kind of look at how we speak to ourselves and look at what that's doing to our kids, you
Yeah.
know so like you give yourself good energy first, talk out what it is that is bothering you, get into the mode of doing that, because that's what therapy is going to require. It's going to require you to learn how to tap into the stories you're telling yourself and actually open up. Yep, EFT, Portia,
Yeah.
emotional freedom technique. So freeing your emotions from being trapped inside your body where you don't have vocabulary attached to them. It gets you practicing talking about how you feel, you
Yeah.
know.
And that's the EFT is the tapping, right?
Tapping, yeah. So like that. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it's like different points. There's videos all over the place about that. There's
Yeah.
no need to pay money for it, or like you may be compelled to, but it's something you can learn on your own.
Definitely. And, I like this, statement here. Portia wrote, it sounds like the steps to healing are intentional rather than something that just happens or
Oh,
just progresses naturally, which I think is a great, distinction, because I think sometimes, I don't know about you, Tamara, but I know in the past, sometimes it could feel like I was in a funk and I'd just be waiting for a new feeling to rely on, or that I would just have some wisdom hit me and I would see something. And it sounds like, from what you're sharing, this element of healing is really intentional, and so is this idea of creating. Like, it's something that you're choosing to move towards.
Oh, absolutely. And that, like in the vein of dropping excuses, you can choose to be stuck in the past with things that have happened to you and allow that to run your emotions. Or you can choose uh in those moments when you're feeling down and stuff, you have to actually physically make yourself put, change your position, change how uh you're laying down at night, change how you sit when you think of, just becoming aware of what your posture is like and things like that when you're remembering things from the past, things that have happened. So it definitely is intentional and deliberate to get yourself out of it.
Mhm.
And that reminds me, when I was 17, I was chronically depressed and by my situation, and I wanted so much more out of life. And Rodgers and Hammerstein's Cinderella came out that year, 1997, where it was Whitney Houston and Brandy, the singers.
Yeah.
Whitney Houston tells Brandy, if you just sit there dreaming and wishing for something different to happen, you're always going to be disappointed by that. But if you get up and you take actions that are different, yes, people are not going to like that. The people that want you to obey and do as you're told and continue to stay in that state, even if they don't necessarily want you to feel bad while you're in that state, they're still encouraging it. You
Yeah.
have to do something to break the pattern, to make something different happen. It's not just going to happen for you. There are actions that you're going to need to, and just start with, if you're sitting like this, it's going to create more of what it is you don't want. So
Mhm.
so open up your body, change your posture, do whatever it is you can to change your emotion to something else. Listen to music that has good lyrics, positive, optimistic lyrics about you being unstoppable. That's what I would do. I would listen
Mhm.
to artists that sung about being the greatest or being unstoppable. I love sport music
Yeah.
people listen to lift weights and all that, because it's always about, how great you are. And then just practicing that vocabulary. I am awesome. I used to say that in like youth groups and stuff when I was volunteering. And then people started saying my affirmations back to me because I would say them out loud so often. Oh
Yeah.
yeah, Tamara is awesome. People jump on the bandwagon of you hyping yourself up, and then you get into the mode of hyping up other people, and it changes your environment. A smile, that was the first thing that I had, this. And so I used it in my
Mm.
environment, and people couldn't help but smile. So I started practicing things that were infectious to other people, laughter and smiles, and, just being positive, and, Muppets. Muppets were the thing that, triggered all this happiness and excitement in me, because I can't help being as excited as they are. And so
Yeah.
that's what I wanted to emulate for myself. Do whatever you can to change it, whatever you can.
I love it. Um, I think that's perfect. And, I think, as we wind down here, as, people have gotten a sense of your journey, you've really shared a lot of the wisdom, from your experience of really what it takes and to really start where they're at. And, it's up to them. It's their choice. Um, there's no special train coming along that's going to pick them up one day. Um, if someone is wanting to, write a book, if they're wanting to share their story, even help processing their story, where can they find you? And yeah, I'll let you share that. Yeah.
Well, I'm on Facebook, so come to my profile. And the practice that I have, a lot of free resources. So if you're just getting started in being able to tell your story, let's say you've gone through quite a bit, you had a lot of pain in your life, and you don't necessarily want to share in a way that's going to make people cry and upset. You don't need to do that for people to pull the lessons out of what
Mm.
you've gone through, you know? So I have a free, it's 68 pages, this nonfiction chapter outline guide. Even if you want to write fiction, even if you want to write children's books, it's a great place to start, because it starts to ask you questions about the results. What is the result that you want people to get from hearing your story? And that's where you write from. Write into a structure of what you want people to get from it. And if you want people to come into your world, that's a whole different thing to create. Start creating conversation around that. But to write your story, it's just really a series of questions that you ask yourself, and that's free on my profile. You can also message me. I'll give you a copy of it. I'll send you a link.
Cool. Amazing. This was marvelous, Tamara. I really appreciate you sharing and opening up. And, I think you're a wonderful role model for what, yeah, real wonderful role model for just like what perseverance and creativity gets to create in one's life, and what you can move through. And the fact that you continue to grow, I think, is amazing. And you're really sharing this gift with each person who comes across in your path. So if you're someone that is new in Tamara's path, and you're going through a challenge like this, or you're wanting to write your book, she's amazing to learn from. She's very passionate and caring, and I think is the real deal. And so I really appreciate you opening up and sharing. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me here. And, just the process of going through coaching with you helped me to discover how much I do really care about myself. And
Mm.
that the things that I originally came to you for, with help with my business and, work-life balance and these different things, uh, those things were really just a cry for help for me to find more of myself. And once I did that, it's like I I didn't necessarily need things to change in my environment to be happy with myself and my environment. I can
Yeah.
be happy with the trajectory and not have to change a bunch of stuff in my life
Yeah.
for it to happen. So yeah, I just want to thank you for having me here and coaching me to be the kind of person that can reach people in their life where they're at. Thank you.
Thank you. Melts in my heart. And for those of you watching, you know, if you're wanting to see more interviews like this, if you go to givememygoodies.com, that's a domain that I made. I have stuff there on how you can start a business. We also have interviews there, whether it's the Redemption series or just business questions people have. It's a really good place, givememygoodies.com. And if anyone's interested in coaching, whether it's to create more clients, whether it's to take more aligned action in your business and actually enjoy it each day, you can go to jmwhiteman.com and you can see testimonials there and you can reach out to me there. Thank you, Tamara. I appreciate you. And thank you, everybody, for watching.
Thank you so much. And thank you, everybody, for being here.
Bye.
Bye.